to Leaders of Tomorrow, the largest platform for anything to do with the entrepreneurial world. I'm Sunanda Jayasseelan. On the show tonight, we are bringing you our I in Dubai special series with a conversation with Danube. Also, tonight on the show, a conversation as far as the macroeconomy is concerned. Arvind Virmani talking about unemployment, talking about what the rest of the fiscal is going to look like for small businesses. All of that in just a moment. For our first conversation tonight, our reporter Davina Munro joining us from on the ground in conversation with the Danube Group. Davina, this series, of course, focuses on all the innovative work that's coming out of the Dubai UAE market, and you're in conversation with Rizwan Sajan, the founder and chairman of the Danube Group. I understand. Take it away. What can you tell us on what the company is doing?
Hi, Sunanda. 2021 has been a year of adjustments for most companies around the world. However, for the Danube Group, it's been a year of growth and expansion. Earlier, we caught up with Rizwan Sajan, the founder and chairman of Danube Group, who told us about how the company turned COVID-related challenges into massive business opportunities. Have a look. Rizwan, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders of Tomorrow. Take me through Danube's journey through the pandemic so far.
Oh, Danube's journey through pandemic has been very, very interesting, and I would say we have emerged very successful for the simple reason the people who worked with us, believed in the company. So I'll just give you a simple example. What happened was when the pandemic came, we were all shocked, surprised like everybody was. And everybody was indoors. We were asked all to stay in house, don't do anything, just be in the house. At that time, she started hearing a lot of companies laying off people and all that. So majority of the people who were working in any company, the biggest fear of them was, will I have this job or not? So the first thing we announced in the newspaper that we are not going to lay off anybody. And that was a very bold decision at that particular time, but I believe that, okay, pandemic or no pandemic, this is going to stay. At that particular time, nobody knew how long it's going to stay. But I knew that if it is over, then we can come out more strongly. And we have always done in the crisis. In the past also, like this, some crisis came, we have emerged as a winner. So the importance was to gain the confidence of the people who are working with me. And when they saw this announcement in the press, everybody was relaxed that boss is not going to lay us off. I mean, you could see big companies laying off 20,000 people, 10,000 people here and there. So once they were satisfied with that, you will be surprised to know that not a single day I was sitting in the home. Every day, me and my assistant Girish, we used to sit every day in the office, talk to all the managers, talk to all the people on a Zoom call. Look, we need to be strong, we need to be brave. And somehow we're going to come out with this. So that was giving them the moral booster which was required, that the chairman is sitting in the office and talking to us. Now what happened was, as soon as the market started opening out, we were into the construction industry. So everybody came out very strongly. They said, no, boss, we are with you, we're going to support with you. So whatever the health precautionary was required to take, the mask, the sanitization, making sure that everybody was given the proper safety measures, they were asked to go in the market and fetch some orders. And normally, if you look at most of the company staff, they would not want to come out of the house because of this pandemic. They were scared. But because of this moral boosting which they got in the last couple of months before when they started going out, they were all willing to die for the company. And that's what changed the scenario. The only thing what we did by that particular time was we cut the salary of the people for 3 months, where I said, okay, I'm not able to pay you the full salary. I'm going to pay you 70% of the salary, which was good enough because they said 70% you can easily survive, and they were very happy about it. That 30% which we cut, in October, November, December, I paid back that 30%. Now that gave a double booster when the market completely opened out. So you can imagine the confidence level of my staff. And surprisingly, we came out with good numbers closing 2020, uh, without much damage to the company. And one of the reasons I would say Expo was there, the market was open for the construction industry, so we were also able to do that possibly well. See, in pandemic, we got actual sense as to, in case of crisis, how do we come out of it, because otherwise, the company is running, everybody is functioning, everybody is doing their job as it, things are doing very well. But when such a thing strikes, you really need to sit back and think, what did we do wrong, and how can we correct ourselves? And we realized that yes, there are a lot of avenues where we need to cut down, a lot of revenues we need to expand, and that's where the whole management team sat down together, and then we decided, okay, this is what we could do. Most important was people were not coming out of the house because of the pandemic fear. So we went out to them, like we started our e-commerce division was already there, existing there, but we made it more stronger. And you'll be surprised to know that the e-commerce division made 10 times bigger sales or revenue in that pandemic because of the complete expansion during a lot of marketing.
What are Danube's plans for 2022, and where do you see the most growth and opportunity?
Danube will go as we were growing in the past. Like I said earlier, that we started the e-commerce business and the hospitality division, that of course we're going to drive. Other than that, the three businesses, our three strong businesses which we are, building material will continue to expand as it is, because there's a lot of opportunity here, and there's a master plan. Even after the Expo 2020, the government has a lot of plans to expand UAE in a different way. So we see a lot of construction activity not stopping even after the Expo 2020. Even in Qatar, the World Cup is coming. Oman is also making some new changes to make the economy strong. So as the GCC is concerned, we are very strong, and I think that we have enough business for the building material business. As far as the Danube Home, which I already told you that yes, we are not only doing in GCC but also expanding in the various countries where we are giving the franchise model. So we are going to take that forward to a big level. Property-wise, market is completely changed in the last 1 year. So I still feel that whoever is there in the property business, having a good name, is going to sell and sell. Because we recently launched a new project, Skies, and within a fraction of a couple of months, we were able to sell 75% of the project without any problem. We are only 5 years old in the property business. Yep. But in the 5 years, we were very proudly, we would say 14 project launch, and out of it 14 project, 11 already delivered. 2 we are going to deliver in this year, and 1 which we have just launched, and the 1 is under construction. So we are talking about, we launch, we deliver. That's the slogan of the company,
What parts of the Indian market interest you the most, and why?
I think we will continue in the Danube Home model in India, because I feel, again, there is a need for that sort of a model in India, because people are buying houses. And in Danube Home, you can buy everything under one roof with warranty, with good prices, after-sale services. So that's what people in India looks at. We also have started in the Danube Home, which is called the Design and Develop, which means if you come with a plan of your apartment, we're going to design the whole house for you. That this is how your furniture will look, this color of sofa or that color of wallpaper or a paint you need to do, and that makes it more easier for any customer to buy. And that is the need of the society in India, because there is not much organized retailer in India as far as this home improvement is there. There's 1 or 2 companies are doing it, but not that in a big way, like we are doing it here.
Rizwan, thank you so much for that, and it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Davina. Thank you so much.
I'm going to slip into a short break. Our Leaders of Tomorrow icon tonight is Arvind Virmani. I did a conversation with him earlier. We're back in just a moment, and we'll bring you that interview. The 10 trends that you think are going to have an impact most on India's entrepreneurs going forward in 2022.
So one, of course, is simple. That is the digitization of the economy, right? The second one is the supply chain diversification. The third one actually is that in much of the world, the population is now beginning to shrink. So the workforces, even in China, which is the biggest, the population has peaked.
Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Tonight, our Leaders of Tomorrow icon is Arvind Virmani. Dr. Virmani, thank you very much for taking the time to join us here. Sir, unemployment data showing it was at a 4-month high. How worried perhaps are you by that data? How do you think that the government should be creating meaningful jobs and tackling really this huge concern as far as unemployment, not just in urban India, but more so, in rural India? You're talking about agriculture and semi-skilled laborers. How can you ensure there are meaningful jobs that are being created for the long run?
So one thing it's very important to be clear is that you have remember, I mean, again, I'm only connecting the dots which people forget. We had a 22% decline in GDP in the first quarter, in the lockdown quarter of the pandemic. In the same period, now we have data from the PLFS labor surveys, there was a 14% decline in the number of jobs. Okay, 22% GDP, 14% decline in jobs. But both those have reversed. Okay, but there is a lag. So if you look at the same data on the worker participation rate, the GDP in the fourth quarter, by the fourth quarter, was up 4% over the previous year. But the employment was still down 1.4. Okay, so there's a lag. GDP declined 22% in the first quarter of the pandemic, the lockdown. The labor declined 14%. In the recovery, the GDP had fully recovered, but labor force was still down 1.4%. Okay, so much of this effect is temporary. So when I tell you that GDP from next year, given all the reforms which we haven't had time to discuss, which have already taken place, will be in the 7% plus minus 5.5% range, which is 7 to 8%, then there will be a corresponding increase in employment, but with a lag.
Sure. Very briefly, I do want to talk about the fact that a lot of large companies, we understand, have written to the finance minister asking that the ease of listing for businesses overseas, that really be opened up. What are your views on that? Do you think more businesses should be encouraged to first list here, create wealth here in the country before perhaps they can look overseas?
So one of the, when I retired as CA, I said to myself, I'm not going to interfere and give outside advice. But one of the things which most upset me was this tax on startups, actually, to the extent that I spoke to the finance minister, and then the finance minister changed. I spoke to the next one. I mean, I spoke many times against that tax, which was a crazy tax, frankly. I have no words for it. There's nowhere in the world do you tax capital gains as income. It is capital gains. You have to recognize, and you have to make a distinction between realized and unrealized capital gains, right? You don't tax unrealized capital gains as income. So really, so the important thing, I think I'm not quite convinced that that problem there has been gradually addressed over a 10-year period. I mean, but I'm not sure it's completely fixed. I think that's the most important thing one can do, is to fix that bad tax, frankly, which has been imposed on that. And of course, we are already seeing the effect of from the financing side, which is the 50 or so, was it 30 or 50 unicorns which have come into play. So clearly, the market is expanding. I think we are already the 5th largest capital market in the world. Within the next 5 to 10 years will be close to the, or maybe it's from 7th to 5th. So I really, I do believe, having worked on reforms for, donkey's years now, that the best way is not by putting restrictions or saying don't go or don't do this, but is making the whole process easier, the taxation easier, in domestically for both the suppliers of capital and the users of capital.
In keeping with the theme that we have here for the 10th edition of our show, we're asking all of our guests who are joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow to comment on perhaps the 10 themes or the 10 events or the 10 trends that you think are going to have an impact most on India's entrepreneurs going forward in 2022.
So one, of course, is simple. That is the digitization of the economy, right? The second one is the supply chain diversification. There's major changes going on in the world in terms of, we all know, I don't want to keep mentioning the country which has monopolized exports of manufactured goods. And clearly, there's now a recognition which started with the Trump presidency, but I think everybody now recognizes it's much too risky to be dependent on one country for all the supply chain. So these are the two, I think, the biggest trends. The third one actually is that in much of the world, the population is now beginning to shrink. So the workforces, even in China, which is the biggest, the population has peaked. And that's going to have a big effect on the working age population. So that is the third trend, given that we are the opposite. That's a huge opportunity for us going forward because our working age population is still going to keep expanding. I would add the fourth is the green economy. But, I think it's not just a question of pollution control. And I believe the government has understood this, this whole push to EVs, that new technologies, new ways of doing things. Recycling, for example, has even been mentioned by government, though by very few other people in business that I have heard. Recycling is not just taking waste paper and reusing it. It is design of equipment, of consumer durables, so that you can reuse most of it, that there should be elements of which you can just take out and replace. So this whole recycling economy, the green economy, I think is clearly the fourth.
Thank you very much for your time here on the show, Dr. Virmani.
Thank you.
All right, that's all we could manage to pack into tonight's show. If you have any feedback for us, our contact details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.